that issue has caused them to allow centerfire rifles in the late flintlock season. There's 3 of the largest WMUs that you're allowed to use a centerfire rifle to harvest a doe in the late season.
Hi, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Today we're talking with Jeff Warner from the Pennsylvania Federation of Blackpowder Shooters about their petition to expand muzzleloader hunting in the great state of Pennsylvania. Jeff, walk me through a little bit of the thought process here and what has happened in Pennsylvania that has prompted this as kind of a response, is what I'm going to call it here.
Yeah, so I'm the current president of the Pennsylvania Federation of Black Powder Shooters. We are a competitive shooting organization based in Pennsylvania. We hold the state championship every year. That's kind of our main focus, really. Prior to our establishment in 1983, the organization was called the Pennsylvania Federation of Muzzleloaders, and that original organization helped establish the late flintlock season, hunting season here in Pennsylvania. They worked with the Game Commission to make that happen. And that's kind of a role that I would like to get back into. This past year, we've seen some changes to our late flintlock season. Pennsylvania is made up of 22 different wildlife management units, and that is particularly relevant when it comes to the filing of a doe tag in the hunting season. So your typical hunting license, you can harvest a buck across the whole entire state, but you have to specify which WMU you want to harvest a doe in. The Game Commission handles all harvest of deer, so that's kind of who we're trying to work with here. But they have biologists that set the number of tags sold per WMU they control the deer population in that way, and they've had a hard time fighting the chronic wasting disease. That problem, the chronic wasting disease, and that in Pennsylvania has seen a fairly drastic lack of interest in hunting, I guess, the past probably decade or so. The number of hunters has gone down significantly.
Okay.
So that issue has caused them to allow centerfire rifles in the late flintlock season. Now, currently, there's 3 of the largest WMUs that you're allowed to use a centerfire rifle to harvest a doe in the late season. But there's actually 6 in total. The other 3, it comes in at different dates.
So this isn't taking away from the flintlock season. It's not limiting that, but they're opening that door.
Not necessarily, but they're opening the door to it. And their reasoning, I can understand. Their reasoning is that those WMUs were not hitting their doe harvest quotas for the year.
To manage for this disease.
Right. They're trying to get more people out in the woods to harvest the doe. I've talked to people personally that said that, well, now that I can take my, centerfire rifle, I'm just not even going to touch my flintlock.
Yeah.
And, it called me a pessimist. But with the trend of the lower number of hunters in the woods, I just don't see it stopping with those 6 WMUs. Whether it takes 5 or 10 years, I think at some point, if we don't try to affect a change, the centerfire rifles are just going to be through the entire flintlock season across the entire state.
Yeah, I think this is kind of an ebb and flow that we're seeing right now, especially I think in the South and in the East and a bit here in the Midwest, but it's kind of a whatever goes, at least here in Indiana. But
Right.
States like Arkansas, I believe, just last year allowed straight wall cartridges during their muzzleloader season, and then I believe this year have shifted or changed the name of that season. And similar to what you're talking about with Pennsylvania, citing a decrease in harvested game numbers and a rise in disease, and that's becoming an issue. And it's something I bring up a lot, is these game organizations, their job isn't to preserve muzzleloading.
Right.
That's been kind of a side effect of the last going on 70 years of game department policy. But we're now in an age where that is no longer the case. And things that have been in place for decades and people's entire lives are starting to shift, and that's concerning.
All right. And I can kind of see it from both sides. Our Game Commission catches a lot of flack over basically every single thing that they do.
Yeah, I think a lot of them do.
I would hate to be a game commissioner because people are unwelcoming of change to begin with.
Jeff, tell us a little bit about what you're trying to get past here in Pennsylvania, because that's what really sparked this entire conversation for us today.
So with the allowance of centerfire rifles in the late season, our game commission isn't necessarily known for taking away what they've already given you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in thinking of a way to, in lack of better terms, fight back against that, I don't want to say that I'm fighting. I want to work with the game commission.
Right. There's a give and a take, ebb and flow, a response maybe.
Right. I feel as though I'm not going to get them to repeal that idea because they need more people hunting the deer. So my idea was allow a flintlock hunter to harvest a buck or a doe in the fall. So in the fall, we have an early muzzleloader season. It's usually the third week of October. It's 1 week. You can harvest just a doe only, but you can use percussion, inline, or flint. Ultimately, if our plan goes through and I get everything that I want, we'd either start that early muzzleloader season a week early or extend it a week longer. Still allow the inlines and percussion guys to take their doe for that week, but allow us flintlock hunters 2 weeks to kill a buck.
Okay.
Or a doe.
Kind of compounding the Pennsylvania tradition.
Right.
That you guys have.
I'm not so I knew initially whenever I started this that I'd get a lot of pushback from just about everybody. One of the biggest concerns specifically with the Blackpowder community is that I want to give up the late season. I don't want to do that. It's kind of cocky of me to say that I'm going to have any leverage at all with the game commission, but
right.
I'm just a guy, and our organization isn't huge. But if they want to try to haggle with the late season, I'm just going to say forget about it because I'm not interested in it at all in losing what we have with the late season. That's been a tradition for how long now? One could say they're already kind of taken away from us a little bit, but a trade deal is not on the table for us.
Right.
So the biggest pushback so far has been the archery community. The archery, and I don't blame them. The archery guys are very passionate about their sport, as I'm passionate about mine.
Technology-wise, it's not too dissimilar to the Centerfire stuff in the muzzleloader's time frame.
Well, right. And whenever you actually, the hard part was whenever I posted our idea on the social media. I can only post a small paragraph.
Yeah.
Because if I post a long novel about it, no one's going to read that. So I can, so I could see why that short paragraph I said, hey, give me 2 weeks in the fall, could cause some people in the archery community to be upset about it. But all the archery guys I've talked to so far in person, where I could just take a minute and actually explain what I wanted, really thought that it wasn't a big deal. So this is why something like this is great, where I can get out here and kind of have a face-to-face open talk about it. So that way it kind of takes a little bit of the edge off.
Yeah, have an opportunity to explain it a little bit.
There's not that many people hunting with a flintlock in Pennsylvania as compared to the archery guys. And that's going to hurt me and help me a little bit. It's going to hurt me in the fact that, they're going to see not as big of a number of people wanting this change. But also that's going to help in a way that it's going to say, hey, look, this is not going to be that big of a change as to what's already happening. If I was allowed 2 weeks in in the early season with a flintlock, it's not like every single Pennsylvanian is going to be running through the woods with a flintlock slinging around balls everywhere. You might see a slight uptick in the amount of guys that are in the woods out there. So I don't really think that it's going to affect the archery season whatsoever. And ideally we'd be in there pre-rut.
Okay.
And that is whenever the woods, because the bucks kind of get doing goofy stuff running around.
Right. So. They start getting a little rowdy at that time.
A little bit, yeah. Obviously, I've not really gotten a lot of pushback from some of the muzzleloading community, aside from hey, don't change the late season, and that's not my goal at all. One of the other things you hear is just take your flintlock out during the regular rifle season.
It's a common reply to this kind of notion.
Well, so it's kind of one of the things that it's kind of a valid argument in that if I was just trying to harvest more deer, yeah, you're right. Okay, I understand that argument. But I'm not. That's not my goal. My goal is to get more people in the woods with a flintlock. I'm not looking for memberships for my organization. I'm not looking to be somebody. I am passionate about muzzleloading. I am in the younger generation of muzzleloaders, which is saying something. I'm 35. But like I said to you before, I feel as though I'm responsible to continue the sport. And if you can't wait until it's gone to ask for it back. So we're trying to be proactive is the big thing.
It gets a lot harder to bring it back if it goes away, I think. And I think it's better to try to kick up a little dust and get some conversation going about it now than see what it looks like in 10 years and then wish you had done something sooner.
Right. And the big thing, like I said, my organization used to do this, at some point. So I don't really see anybody else being the voice of muzzleloaders in Pennsylvania. So why not our organization do it?
Right.
So we're a group of, we're not a huge group of people.
Yeah.
But we're getting to be a little more well known than we were. I mean, the organization in the past, since I've been president, we've seen growth in membership, charter clubs. I think whenever I first got into the federation, we were at like 20 charter clubs or something. We're up to like 36 or 34, I think, currently.
Man, that is awesome.
And a lot of these are new clubs. Like guys just started. Hey, we're gonna. So it's really great to see. Just at the Artisan Show down in Carlisle.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
I think we sold close to 40 memberships, and a fair amount of them were new memberships, not renewals. So it's really good to see a lot of newcomers getting into it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You had a petition there for this change that you're looking at, trying to move forward. What was the reception like at the show where you could see people in person?
Really good. So the day before the show, I posted the petition to just like Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
And I was a bit down in the dumps because, which I knew it was coming, but, everybody was, because I didn't just post it to, muzzleloading specific groups. I posted it to some just Pennsylvania hunting groups.
Okay.
Man, it was a little disheartening, which again, I knew that
quite a bit of pushback.
Posted it. Right. I posted it and was like, well, I'm turning the notifications off for this. So, I
was do that now and then.
So I was a little apprehensive, about it, which was foolish because I was going to a muzzleloader show, there's not really going to be a lot of people there. So, but it really made me feel good because I had a lot of people were really receptive to the idea. Even a couple of archery guys that came in, were really receptive to the idea, and they signed the petition.
Good.
Which made me feel really good. We have a handful of shows yet this year that we're going to have the petition at. We're running the petition through the fall. So in the fall, they will have their quarterly meeting, the Game Commission. I'm going to be there with the petition. So there's a couple of things I don't know yet. So they will have kept track of how many people harvested a deer in the late Flintlock season with a Centerfire rifle. Now, the harvest report doesn't usually come out till April. Yeah. So that'll be a useful tool for me for, I can't just go in there and be like, hey, give me this. Here's some signatures. I'm going to have to have some sort of supporting facts that would say, hey, look.
You got to have some data there to help you out.
Right. Yeah. So whether the data that comes out helps me or hurts me, won't know just yet. But
yeah, ideally you'd like it to help you, but, data's data.
So I wish I could say that I'm super optimistic about what the Game Commission is going to tell me. Just knowing how things work here at that, I'm not, and maybe, this might not be this year. Maybe if I keep pushing, it'll be, a couple years down the road. If anything that they will give me now, I will consider a win,
So right now you're collecting signatures at shows and events where you can be out in front of Pennsylvanians. A couple questions with that. Is it only able to be signed in person at one of these events where a representative is at or a supporter is at? And then how many signatures are you looking for? And what are the next steps after you have those signatures or get close? We're looking for this April timeline to get some of the hunting, the harvest data. and then submitting it by the end of the year, what's that pipeline look like then for where people can sign, how many you need, and then what the next steps are after that?
So from what I've seen so far, there isn't necessarily a metric telling me how many signatures I need to have.
Okay.
It's kind of like going to be one of those things that just I want to get as many as I physically can,
Just a show of support.
just to show that there's people that want it. Um, as far as where to sign it, it's going to be at a handful of shows where you can sign in person. So we have the Horn Show, which is the HCH Horn Show, which is March 7th and 8th. It's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Then we'll be at Fort Loudon's Market Fair, June 20th through the 22nd. We'll be at the Gunmakers Fair in Kempton, the July 25th through the 27th. The state shoot this year is to be Fort McCord Militia is hosting it near St. Thomas, Pennsylvania. It's August 22nd to the 24th.
Okay, super.
And just to touch on the state shoot quick, if you're in Pennsylvania or in the surrounding states or anywhere really, if you feel like making the trip, it's an excellent shoot to go to. It's called the Pennsylvania State Championship for Blackpowder shooters, but it's a great place for newcomers as well. We have ags and targets for just about every skill level. So
that's awesome. That's what we need.
Like I said, as many signatures as I can take. I don't know if there's like a set number as far as what's going to change their mind. I think what really, they're not going to probably sit and count every single one. Right. I just need to show the interest that's going to say, hey, look, people want this.
Yeah.
And if I back that with a little bit of actual data, I think we'll at least make a difference. And you know what? If they tell me no, at least they know that there's someone here that's making some noise.
Yeah.
There's
still support out there for the Flintlock in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every time you turn around, I heard someone saying, well, hey, man, look, this is changing to the late season, or they're changing this and that. And I couldn't, we as an organization, we couldn't sit and not do something, or at least try to do something about it. So I think it's changed. Don't change just for the sake of change. And we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just get people with a muzzleloader in their hands in the woods.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That Flintlock season has been huge over the years. I mean, it's caused manufacturers to design muzzleloaders and produce muzzleloaders specifically for that season. And I think that shows you too that there's interest there and there's people that care there. I mean, they wouldn't be spending the money to try to get people with their guns in the woods in that season if there weren't a number of people that mattered, for that season. And I think that the more that you can do there in Pennsylvania to promote the Flintlock and the muzzleloader and Flintlock season, the better. Because if you're, like you said, if you're there beating the drum, they can't think that there's nobody that cares about this and sweep it under the rug and move on.
We're going to make as much noise as we can anyway. And it's not just hunting that is changed in Pennsylvania with that. If the late season was to go away, you're well aware that a lot of the accoutrements that are tied to muzzleloading, a lot of that's cottage industry stuff. It might not be all year long that Pennsylvanians are buying muzzleloading stuff, but you can't tell me that around hunting season that the market shows a little bit of a change.
Yeah.
As far as Blackpowder related stuff. So if that would go away, a lot of people might be in some trouble.
I'm surprised year after year just how much we see on Facebook alone of people saying, I've got my first Flintlock, the season starts in a couple weeks, what do I need to know? And, as much as that can be frustrating at times, because I'm really concerned that person's going to have a bad time because 2 weeks is a really short amount of time to try to figure this out.
Right.
But there's still quite a few of those that come up every year on Facebook and on the muzzleloading forums and things. And I think that's great that there's still an influx of people interested in that. We don't know how long they stay or how successful they are or if they stick around with it, but there's still new people always looking at that season as an opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm hoping that as we further ourselves into the technological world, and I'm actually starting to see this, which makes me fairly good. I feel as though some people are going to want to step back, and participate in something a little bit slower, obviously older than what things are. And the great thing about muzzleloading is anything that we use can be bought that was handmade, or you can hand make it yourself. In a world of automation, and some of the automation brings low quality stuff. It's kind of nice to step back into a hobby that something that you can have is a high quality handmade item. So, I think there is a lot that goes into
Yeah.
keeping the season alive, just the hunting season. And I'm hoping that all kind of culminates into this actually working out. Luckily, I think there's a couple of the directors on in the game commission that are very interested in the tradition of hunting in Pennsylvania. So, like I said, I'm not necessarily optimistic about what we're asking for, but I do have hope. So, all we can do is find out.
If there's somebody in the game division that is watching this, or comes across it, do you have just a couple sentence statement that you would say about this as to why they should consider it or ultimately pass it?
We're coming up on the semi-sesquicentennial next year. A lot of people believe that Pennsylvania is, home of the American long rifle. So not only is the keeping muzzleloading alive, keeping American tradition alive, but it's specifically keeping Pennsylvania tradition alive. And times being the way they are, I think it's important to keep that history known and keep it going.
Is there anything else, Jeff? I mean, you came prepared, man. You're just knocking things out. I love it.
So I know that I ramble and I can talk for hours, dude.
No, I know you can. I can too. Don't get me started.
I could go on and talk for just arbitrarily for just until you tell me to shut up. No, there's nothing specific. Go out and shoot, man. That's the only thing I can tell people is go shoot.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. I don't shoot nearly as much as I want to, or as much as I should. As president of the federation, I should be out shooting every weekend. But life.
Life. Yeah, I'm feeling that hard.
Yeah. So, just shoot, burn powder, shoot something. You don't got to be a muzzleloader. Just go out and go shoot.
No, it's got to be muzzleloaders.
Got to be all right.
I'm not going to have any of this sinful breech loading.
We don't tolerate breech loaders around here. Yep.
I'm going to have to figure out how to crop around your head there. Yeah. Hide. We're gonna.
Oh, here, there's a couple back here.
Yeah, I see them upright. Yeah. Those are blocked by your beautiful dome.
So they can go up on the wall.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, those are easy to get and grab.
The clean side of my gun room. Over there is the workbench, and it is just.
Everybody's got the camera angle, man. The shop I'm in right now, I've got the camera angle.
If I'd pan over that way, it is just a clustered mess of files and sandpaper. What's over there? Drill oil. There's a butt plate.
That's what everybody should have. I'd like to thank Jeff for taking time out of his day to talk with me. I'll have a link to the online petition from the Pennsylvania Federation of Blackpowder Shooters in the show notes or video description wherever you're watching this, and we'll have another link at ilovemuzzleloading.com in the news or blog section for you to reference and see a little bit more information from the Pennsylvania Federation here. For me, I think this is an interesting notion as we pass, really, the era where hunting seasons actively, at least seem to actively, support muzzleloading and muzzleloading culture. Times have changed, and I've said it now for a few years that I personally don't think that we can rely on these state game commissions to actively support muzzleloading. I think that things like this, where a group of muzzleloading enthusiasts are interacting with and making their voices heard to the state game commissions, is good. And I think it's good to have an active voice in your state. I think it'd be awesome to see some attention to this from the national level, the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much them saying they support this actually does anymore. Money talks, and as we've seen in the hunting industry and hunting regulations over the years, a lot of the power comes down to businesses influencing and wanting their arms or their products to be used in hunting seasons. Also, on the other hand, the power is with the state game commissions, and they have a responsibility to their data and kind of the wildlife management behind it, it seems, and not necessarily always the voice of the people. So I think it's good, and I hope that this is successful for the Pennsylvania Federation. As always, I'm a muzzleloading advocate, and I love to see expanded muzzleloading access. So, of course, I'm going to support something like this. And maybe you do too. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you think this is an interesting way to go about things, and if you would consider helping organize this in your state if it came down to it. It's not to say that it will or could happen, or that muzzleloading is going to shrink in every state by any means, and it's not necessarily even shrinking in Pennsylvania. But I think it's important for us to think about these things and contextualize them for if and when they come to your home, and think about what you can do at that time. Once again, I'm Ethan. I love muzzleloading. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.